On 5 News, demanding action. The families of 2 football legends speak out. Nobby Stiles was part of England's World Cup winning team. He now has Alzheimer's. Jeff Astle died from a degenerative brain disease. His daughter says the game is to blame and wants more to be done.
We need to know and we need closure, but all these other families need to know. But more importantly, perhaps football needs to know.
Also, the truth about Tara's death. Her family reveal what really happened. Caught on camera. Did this woman assassinate the half-brother of North Korea's leader? And customer complaints soar. So are you fed up with how you're being served? Welcome to 5 News. I'm Danny Sinha. They're both footballing icons. One has Alzheimer's, the other died from a form of brain disease. Now the families of Nobby Stiles and Jeff Astle are demanding more action over possible links between heading a ball and brain damage. Well, a new study on a small number of players has found it could cause long-term damage. The scientists behind the study say it's proof that more research is needed. Peter Lane reports.
Everything football gave him, football took away. Because he died never even knowing or remembering he'd ever been a footballer.
For the family of former England and West Brom player Jeff Astle, today's research is no surprise. Back in 2002, a coroner ruled that years of heading heavy leather footballs caused his dementia. A brain scan revealed CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. The verdict on his death certificate reads industrial disease. The Astles say a large-scale, detailed study of the potential dangers of heading the ball is long overdue.
It's not just we need to know and we need closure, but all these other families need to know. But more importantly, perhaps football needs to know.
I can't believe that some of today's players are thinking about it, worrying about it. I would be if I was playing. When you're diagnosed with brain damage, there's nothing anyone can do for you. And like my Jeff, he was dead at 59.
The findings published today are small-scale, based on 6 former players who developed dementia, so they only provide tentative evidence of a link between CTE damage and heading the ball.
We have only looked at 6 brains, and 4 of them were found to have CTE pathology. So we cannot definitively say that playing football causes CTE, although there's a possible association.
The FA says it and the Players' Union, the PFA, will fund wider research, but haven't said when or just how big the project will be. Although the balls used in today's game are lighter, they're faster, so some coaches have their own concerns.
Well, I'd like the FA to act as quickly as they can. What we can do, as you said, certainly in grassroots football, up until the age of 11 or 12, we can stop overhead heights, keep the ball on the floor, which will benefit grassroots football, to tell you the truth.
World Cup 1966 legend Nobby Stiles has dementia. His son is convinced years of heading the ball must have contributed and is backing calls for more research.
The balls now are lighter, but you still feel the collision. But when my dad was playing, those balls were, especially if they got wet, were absolutely ridiculously heavy. Watching anybody with dementia is a painful process. And our family, like other families, are going through that.
Jeff Astle's family haven't given up hope that his death can help lead football to definitive answers. Like his cherished England caps, it would be part of his legacy. Peter Lane, 5 News.
Tara Palmer-Tompkinson's family have revealed the former It Girl died of natural causes. The 45-year-old was found dead at her home in West London last week. Well, Sangeeta Kandola joins me now in the studio. And what more have her family said then?
Well, this is the first time that we've heard from Tara Palmer-Tompkinson's family since her untimely death. This afternoon, her sister Santa tweeted to say she was touched by the warm response to the 45-year-old's death, and she wanted to thank people for their support. But she also wanted to clarify a couple of points. She said the coroner's report today states Tara died of natural causes, a perforated ulcer, and she did not have a brain tumour. A short time later, her family then issued another statement. They said those that knew and were close to Tara knew there was no no retreat to a dark place, as some have disappointingly sought to suggest. In the last few weeks, Tara was happy, positive and making plans for when she recovered her health. Now, we know the former reality star had a well-publicised problem with addiction in the past. Her family, though, today very keen to stress she was in a happy place. She was feeling good. And in fact, the final weekend before she died, they said she was making new music. They also say a private funeral will be held for her later this month.
Sangeeta, thank you very much. Police in Malaysia have arrested a woman in connection with the apparent assassination of the half-brother of the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. It's reported that Kim Jong-nam told medics at Kuala Lumpur airport that he'd been attacked with a spray. Well, CCTV footage has been released showing a woman who's reportedly wanted over his death. Dominic Reynolds reports.
When you picture an assassin, they probably don't have LOL on their top. But it's claimed the woman in these grainy CCTV images has just murdered one member of North Korea's ruling family on the orders of another. Kim Jong-nam was the half-brother of the world's most secretive leader. South Korea says that he is dead, killed with a mysterious substance while standing in the check-in queue at a Malaysian airport. If it's true, it's the latest audacious act by Kim Jong-un to ruthlessly get rid of his enemies. The leader of the neighbouring South said if this is confirmed as state-sponsored murder, it shows the cruelty and inhumanity of what's happening over the border. The rare glimpses the world got of Kim Jong-nam have generally been at airports. He's been in unofficial exile in China for 15 years. Once, he was expected to inherit the presidency. That's him on the sofa in the early 80s with his father, former President Kim Jong-il. But he fell out of favour, and in North Korea, even if you're family, that can be very dangerous. It's believed this man was killed by being thrown to wild dogs. He was the young president's uncle. The rest of the world sometimes jokes about this eccentric outsider nation. Our former ambassador to North Korea told me that's a mistake.
The regime is very far from a joke, and killing members of the royal family at an airport is the least of the problems that it poses the world. Much more serious was the missile test just 2 days ago, where the North Koreans showed that they can launch a missile using solid fuel technology and that they can launch it from a highly mobile vehicle.
That means it's capable of launching a missile faster than ever before. So as the body thought to be Kim Jong-nam's was taken for a post-mortem, the world got another reminder. It is very hard to predict what this very well-armed nation might do next. Dominic Reynolds, 5 News.
Tata Steel workers have voted massively to accept reforms to their pensions, clearing the way for investment in the company. Members of 3 unions backed changes by around 3 to 1. The company's offer included a £1 billion investment plan for the Port Talbot works and no compulsory job losses. Rolf Harris is to be retried on 3 sex offence charges and faces 1 new count. Last week, a jury found the 86-year-old not guilty of 3 assaults. The jury failed to reach a verdict on another 3. The Australian has pleaded not guilty to the new charge. A record number of people are in work after another fall in unemployment. According to official figures, more than 31.8 million adults now have a job. Well, that's 300,000 more than a year ago. Record levels of hate crime were reported to police in the aftermath of last summer's EU referendum. In some areas of England and Wales, the number of cases jumped by more than 50%. Well, the figures cover 5 types of crime which police consider to be racially or religiously aggravated, ranging from assaults to criminal damage. Well, from July to September last year, 33 out of 44 forces recorded the highest quarterly number of hate crimes since records began in 2012. Well, 3 forces each recorded more than 1,000: the Metropolitan Police, Greater Manchester and West Yorkshire. But Dorset saw the biggest increase, with 104 crimes recorded. That's a rise of 100%. Our chief correspondent, Tessa Chapman, has been to Dorset to find out more.
A half-term cookery class in Bournemouth. It's run by Muslim and Jewish groups together, hosted in a church. This is community cohesion in action. But here in Dorset, there's been a rise in the recording of hate crime. Farhana volunteers to help victims who've been subjected to racial or religiously motivated abuse. She knows what it's like.
Wherever I've gone out and I've had comments like, oh, she's going to bomb us, or here she comes, terrorist, we've had all sorts of weird things said to us.
From July to September last year, there were 104 hate crimes recorded here in Dorset, up from 52 the previous quarter. Most happened in towns. Police say many late at night and involving alcohol. The majority were offensive words being shouted out. There were some minor physical assaults and a number of incidents of criminal damage. The question is, did Brexit cause the surge? Dorset voted leave. Back at the church, there is a feeling that some now feel freer to vent their anger.
It's been legitimised. Brexit has seemed to legitimise the way that you can talk to people that you perceive are not indigenous to this country.
Police know some incidents were directly linked because of the language used, but they say reporting of historic incidents has also pushed the statistics up.
Actually, the number of incidents that we've recorded are still very low. However, I would strongly encourage anybody who's been a victim of a hate crime to come forward. Strangely enough, we would see a rise in the reporting of hate crime as a positive indicator, because it means that our communities have had confidence to come forward and tell us what's going on.
The extent to which Brexit has been a trigger isn't clear yet, but everyone here agrees empowering people to report hate crime is what matters most. Tessa Chapman, 5 News, Bournemouth.
Coming up on 5 News, Donald Trump hits back over claims of contact between his team and Russia. And as consumer complaints soar, we found out the best way to get things sorted.
It's not about losing your temper and shouting and behaving in a Neanderthal way.
We'll see you after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News. President Trump has branded claims that his election campaign team had links to Russia as nonsense. It's after his national security advisor, Michael Flynn, resigned when it emerged he had lied about his conversations with Russian officials. Well, Democrats and some senior Republicans are calling for an investigation into Flynn and any links between the Trump team and Russia. Our political editor, Andy Bell, reports.
It's the allegation he can't shake. Is the new president just too close to Russia and Vladimir Putin? It's back again because his national security advisor had to be fired over private conversations with the Russian ambassador. But the questions are multiplying. Did Donald Trump know about those conversations? Did he authorize them? And today, more allegations based on intelligence leaks that there were extensive contacts between Donald Trump's team and the Russians during the election. His opponents want a full inquiry.
If an investigation is not independent, nonpartisan, and most of all transparent, there's no guarantee this administration will take the decisive and immediate actions necessary to keep our country safe.
The president's responded with a barrage of tweets. Among them, this Russian connection nonsense is merely an attempt to cover up the many mistakes made in Hillary Clinton's losing campaign. And in another, he alleges a conspiracy between 2 newspapers and those meant to protect the country. Information is being illegally given to the failing New York Times and Washington Post by the intelligence community, National Security Agency and FBI, just like Russia. Russia and President Putin have certainly been given the benefit of the doubt by Donald Trump.
What's wrong with having Russia work with us?
He's done a very brilliant job.
It was very nice. He said great things. He even called me brilliant.
But some old Russia hands say he may be on the right track.
Policy towards Russia at the moment really matters. Russia and the West were both talking about the possibility of military confrontation 3 or 4 months ago. We obviously need to get away from that to a more cooperative, less heated, less tense relationship.
The new president may want to reset relations with Russia, but that will be harder if the world is suspicious of his motives. Andy Bell, 5 News.
Now, there's nothing new about tales of shops and restaurants disappearing from our high streets, but some small businesses say they're facing more pressure than ever, thanks to increases in business rates due to come into effect in April. And there's added anger over the fact that large online companies, which don't require high street premises, are benefiting from a cut in taxes. Catherine Jones has the story.
Like many small independent retailers, the owner of this exotic pet shop is not looking forward to April's business rate changes.
£258 a week,
Right.
every week for the whole year, just for the privilege of having my front door on High Street.
Hazel owns 4 shops and is bracing herself for the bills for 3 of them to go up.
Whether it goes up 5p a week or £500 a week, it's still a bill that we have to find and we have to pay. It's a bill that you have to pay. There's no escaping business rates. You have to pay them. It's either a bill that I can swallow or it's a bill that I have to put my prices up to accommodate. Either way, it has to be paid.
On average, shops in England and Wales will face an increase of 3.26%, altogether paying an extra £125 million in business rates. But retailers who trade online will be less badly hit. Amazon, for example, will actually see its bills fall by 1.3%. So it will pay almost £150,000 less in business rates. It's because the vast distribution centres run by Amazon and other internet retailers can be positioned in business parks far away from prime high street locations.
The Chancellor needs to recognise the detrimental effect on smaller businesses and provide some relief to them, because after all, if the businesses aren't there to pay the business rates, they won't be there to pay the national insurance contributions, for their employees to pay the income tax and for them to pay tax on their profits.
Online competition is one of Hazel's biggest challenges.
So we're trying to get people away from the internet, come away from the keyboards, come into our shops, come and see us. We're all specialised in our trade, but it's very difficult when you're pricing things. You know, we price things at recommended retail price, and you can buy things on the internet for less than what we can buy them from the wholesalers. It's a lose-lose battle, really.
The changes will mean 600,000 of the smallest shops will no longer have to pay business rates at all. But for the slightly larger independent retailers, their fight not to fall prey to online competitors may get harder. Catherine Jones, 5 News.
Actor Harrison Ford has had a near miss whilst flying his plane in the United States. According to American TV reports, he landed on a taxiway instead of the runway at an airport in California, passing extremely close to a passenger jet. When in 2015, he was seriously injured when he crashed a vintage plane on a golf course in Los Angeles. Cycling's golden couple, Jason and Laura Kenny, have announced they're expecting their first child. Laura posted this photograph of the couple's bikes alongside a child's bike to make that announcement. Now, as Brits, we're not exactly famed for our good customer service, but it seems we're now less willing to accept it. Customers made 55 million complaints last year, and there's a warning that it's costing British businesses £37 billion a year. Well, Minnie Stevenson has been finding out what annoys us the most.
Would you care for a rat?
Welcome to the Faulty Towers standard of customer service, the stuff nightmares are made of. And now it seems that very British culture of complaining is alive and well. It's been revealed that millions more of us in the UK feel we are experiencing shoddy service.
Yes, it turns out we are a nation of complainers. Last year in Britain, there were over 55 million complaints made. Yes, 55 million.
So who are the biggest culprits, you may ask? Well, retailers really wind us up. 24% of all complaints are made to shops. Next, it's our phone contracts, with telecoms bearing the brunt of 13% of customer unhappiness. Energy companies, annoying too, with 10% of complaints. And it turns out our transport woes and our banks irritate us in equal measure. Both get 7% of our wrath.
We are seeing more complaints than we've ever seen before. There's a variety of reasons for that. One of them is the rise of social media, which makes people feel more empowered, enables them to take action against companies when they're not happy.
So now let's meet a man who is not happy at all. Look at that face. Does he look happy? No. I'm consulting Jasper Gregson, the self-proclaimed complainer, an expert on how to make the most of your complaint.
The first thing I'd say is always go to the top. So you want to go to the organ grinder rather than the monkey. So you don't want to mess around with customer services. Go to somebody who's got real authority. I think the second thing I'd say is don't get mad, get even. So it's not about losing your temper and shouting and behaving in a Neanderthal way.
So go on, now is your chance to have a good old moan. What annoys you most?
Usually when people are not on time.
Not on time?
Yeah.
So annoying.
Drives me nuts.
Litter, the state of the world today, the environment.
Trains.
Trains?
Yes.
What, when it's just not arriving?
Yeah, well, just not enough information.
Computers, technology.
Technology annoys
when things don't
you.
work the way you
Technology,
want
when
them
technology
to.
does
You
not
just
work,
want something
it
to happen
pisses
and
me
then things start spinning on the screen and you can't get anything to
it
work.
goes round and round,
and you're just like, will it ever end?
Exactly.
And it turns out, because of bad service, over a quarter of us spent less with companies last year. Well, at least that's one less thing to complain about. Minnie Stevenson, 5 News.
Well, we'll have more on that because on 5 News tonight at 6:30 we'll be getting more advice about how to make a complaint, and we want to hear from you. If you're fed up with your complaints being ignored, well, contact us on our Facebook page by searching C5 News. Well, consumer expert and super complainer Helen Judney will be here in the studio to help you out. Also, do you yearn for simpler technology? I'll be speaking to Gadget Show host John Bentley about why old mobile phones could be making a comeback. The brick is making a comeback. Well, Claire Nazir has the weather next. I'll see you again at 6:30. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.